So we planned this about a week ago, and in response to a major announcement from the UK government, I actually wrote an open letter to Keir Starmer about 2 months ago, and I said, please, will you have some stronger opinions on AI? You can't have no opinions on AI. Even if you don't have any interest in AI, you need to communicate these sorts of things. You can't just leave it hanging. And so we've seen some serious, welcome, Danny, great to see you. We've seen some real change in the scene over the last week in the UK, and I wanted to gather some folks together from the industry to make sure that we have a clear view on that, what's happened and what that means for schools, colleges, FE, and learners. And then what happens, of course, since then, just when you've got a plan together, Trump comes out and announces something even bigger, of course. So what's Trump announced? Trump's announced a $500 billion fund that's being created with the formation of Stargate, a joint venture between OpenAI, SoftBank, and Oracle, with some others involved as well, like Arm, intending to invest $500 billion in AI within the United States. My understanding is that the US is seeing AI as an element of national security, and that they cannot afford, from a defense perspective, to fall behind others, aka China. And so they're trying to onshore as much as possible. They think they're ahead in AI and they're trying to stay that way. Trump's also talking about 100,000 new jobs being improved and significant capabilities in AI. So just when you think things are slowing down, they speed up again. But Alex, let's focus on home turf here. I'll talk a bit about who this guy, Matt Clifford, is in just a moment for people who don't know. But what's the headlines here? Just run us through what's happened in the last week in the UK.
Well, when Matt published AI Opportunities Action Plan, he mentioned 5 key points that are really important for everyone in the UK at the moment. He spoke about AI growth zones, enhance compute capacity, how to support AI sector in the best possible way, how to upskill the workforce, and how to enhance public and private services with AI. So we have a lot to go through today.
And this is significant. We wouldn't have called this briefing for something minor. This is, for me, the first major announcement from the Labour government about their intent and level of intention and investment in AI. So for those who don't know, so Matt Clifford was appointed many months ago, maybe getting into a year or so ago now, to support the government. It was a voluntary role. In January, he was appointed as the Prime Minister's AI Opportunities Advisor. He seems to be very much the person in the driving seat. He's bringing teams together across Number 10 and DSIT, and with the intention to seize the opportunities of AI and build the UK's AI capabilities, delivering on the plan for change. I'm reading this off exactly what Matt has said. So I'll continue with that. The Prime Minister's AI Opportunities Advisor will advise ministers on action to drive forward implementation of AI Opportunities Action Plan, working closely with DSIT. And he will be advising on policy interventions designed to grow the UK AI sector and support adoption across the economy to boost productivity and improve lives. I'll pause there on this. So there's serious money being talked about, Alex, am I right?
Yes, you're absolutely right.
And there's an intention here for AI to transform every sector, and education has certainly been a key element of that statement. What are we hearing about education in this update from Matt and the government?
Well, in this update, mostly what's mentioned is HE sector. But speaking of education sector in general, there are a couple of examples that Matt mentioned, such as an opportunity to have AI-assisted lesson planning and marking, to use generative AI for student assessment, to use AI tools or AI assistant to help optimize business processes, and also what's the key in other sectors and the education sector is, as well, is to upskill everyone. So to upskill educators, to upskill students, and share the best practices in so-called AI knowledge hubs so that everyone can easily access what are the best practices and how to implement them in their own institution.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to pause just to go around the room here as well. We've got some people on camera, some people not. Just with a show of hands or a mention in the chat, who's read the AI announcement that was put out 6-7 days ago? Yeah, Danny, you've seen it. Danny, happy just to go on mic for a second? Just give me your reactions when you saw that.
So it's only a 26-page document, but I still popped it in ChatGPT and got a summary from it, which was really useful.
Such is modern life.
I think that from an educational perspective, different colleges are on a different point in the journey. So some of the things that have been highlighted and discussed in that report around priorities, some of us are already doing. So if there's any funding that comes along with this to specifically support the enhancement within the delivery in teaching and learning or the education piece, but more importantly, the options or the benefits from the back office services that we have that can really be enhanced through AI systems, whether that's finance or MIS or other. So I think there's a real opportunity.
Yes, thank you so much. Danny, Kurt, have you got any comments that you want to add at this point?
Yeah, I think I will actually. It was really interesting to see that announcement. Of course, one of the things that we looked at, and I was very pleased to see, was the plan to look at assessment and marking and using the tools really effectively in that area. Of course, Ofqual at the moment have prevented awarding bodies from allowing marking and assessment to be fully completed by AI. It's something that's not able to be done. And of course, you read the text and it's talking about formative assessment. So they haven't taken the step, of course. It's first steps first, isn't it, to say, let's look at formative assessment, so those things prior to the things that lead to the full qualification outcome. But we should see that hopefully progressively leading into assessment in the future. And I think it's first steps there. So really pleased to see that the work that's going on. I know you and I have worked with colleges in the past, which are already using formative assessment tools and developing themselves to a very high capability. They talk about in the sort of 90% range, and we saw at least that, didn't we, in some of the colleges that we visited and the tools that they've developed. So really great to see. I think that's one of the things that shone out for me. Great to see the focus though, and it's certainly going to put our curriculum on the right bearing for the future of integrating AI into everything we do in the curriculum as well. That was my take.
Thanks, Kurt. That's really helpful. Yeah, I think it's a big boost actually from what I can see. And we'll send out the report. We're not going to go through it line obviously in this short briefing. For those who haven't got a copy of it, obviously it's readily available online. I think seeing our government in support of this, I mean, we're part of MKAI, Morality and Knowledge and Artificial Intelligence. We've been doing this for 6 years, as we say, before AI was cool. And I have a background in technology, data. I worked for Oracle and so on before setting this organization up. We are pragmatists, though, and we definitely do not think that colleges and schools should be just jumping into this. I think there's actually some real hurdles. I've written for FE News a few times about some of the concerns I have for using, thank you, Alice, using AI in the classroom. I think there are some incredible use cases that are really simple and valuable. When we see teachers putting together custom GPT to support assignments where students can get help with understanding what the assignment is and get access to resources above and beyond what the teacher has, such as videos. I think it's brilliant. It takes like minutes to set up. I think what Kurt was describing there is really exciting and interesting. We know that it's a big problem in the sector, that time needed to mark and assess, and of course to give useful feedback. I know certainly at the HE level as well, there's some real challenges in having the time to give proper feedback. And so some students are asking for AI support on that so they can just get more insight above and beyond kind of just a quick glance from a teacher or a lecturer. But I think the clear one for me is back office, and we've been talking about this for some time. It's like, okay, let's have a really nuanced discussion about classroom teaching, pedagogy, assessment, absolutely, and let's get it right. But back office, I mean, this is just business. What are we waiting for? Let's optimize. And we're seeing 6% efficiency savings in the colleges we've worked with so far, just from ready-to-made tools, just from knowing where to put Copilot and with whom and for what uses. How many licenses to buy a ChatGPT and where to use it. Really simple things if you read the headlines, everyone's banging on about agentic AI and all these things and AI replacing jobs. I'm not interested in that. I don't think it's real. I think it's just hype to get more investment. Maybe it's a bubble, but productivity tools based on machine learning are real, and they're really impactful. So one of the key things of the briefing that's coming through is that it's saying quite clearly that we're going to help public sector to use these tools to increase efficiency. And here we are, we're public sector. So when we look at, student support, look at ESOL, looking at HR, finance, marketing, all these areas, this is a clear direction now from the government that says we want to make this happen. We want to improve these things. There should be money available for these things. And I think it's exciting. I think, Danny, I saw you nodding earlier on that, we can grab these simple, ready-to-made tools. We need to have the governance and the GDPR and the ethics to go with this clearly. Leaders need to have accountability and transparency. They need to know how these institutions are using AI, what to do when things go wrong, what to do when biases are coming through that weren't expected, who has accountability, is it software, is it teacher, is it institution, is it policy, all these things have got to be joined up. But that doesn't need to stop us making just the incremental steps, which are significant. Like I said, 6%, one college, that was 1,000 hours a month, just from some simple use of tools. Departments that were asking for more people that don't need them, freeing up hours for creative work, strategic work. This stuff makes a big difference in our sector. Do this across the schools and the colleges. I mean, there must be 500 plus institutions in the UK where there's more than 50 back office staff. This is huge for us, in the sector and beyond. So that excites me, and that's really positive to see. And I'm just going to check in with the room at this point. So, Susie, I see you're on camera. Happy that you're here if you're just learning, but any comments? Love to hear your feedback at this point.
Just here to learn tonight, this afternoon.
Well, that's what we promised, a briefing as well, but it's always good to hear other folks joining in. I see Henry's joined as well. Henry, I know you're off camera, off microphone, but is any comments from you at this point? Any experiences that are resonating with you that we're talking about so far?
I think it's particularly around how to launch Copilot. I mean, what we experienced is, COVID came and everyone suddenly launched onto Teams without really planning it or thinking about it. And then Teams has evolved so much over the last 5 years, and we're probably playing catch up. So it's almost taking a step back and thinking, how can we deploy it in a better way?
100%. I'm so glad you said that, Henry. What's the usual story? Now, we work with colleges more than schools. Love to do more in schools, obviously, but that's just kind of where we've spent our time at the moment. And what's happening, almost every college, and we've done 2 Copilot briefings, by the way, and we're not Microsoft partners, so we're very pragmatic about Copilot and do not roll out Copilot. Sorry, Microsoft, but do not roll out Copilots. It should be strategically placed in one college, 150 back office staff, no more than 19 licenses are needed, no more than that. This was in our briefing. We said, look, if you start rolling it out, you're going to put people under pressure to use a tool that, one, they probably don't need, and two, they haven't been onboarded and ready to use. So you're just adding to the stress with this rather than improving. There's still questions about governance, of sure, but I think when it's a Microsoft product as well, we can have some confidence. And Copilot's the only AI tool, by the way, that's GDPR compliant. ChatGPT is not. Copilot is. So that in itself makes it very interesting companion for use in the workplace. But what do we see? We see colleges putting out a handful of Copilot licenses to people that either put their hand up or people that ought to kind of have a use for it. So you'll see it popping up in MIS, you'll see it popping up in IT, someone in marketing's got one. They're not typically using it. They don't know what they're supposed to be doing with it. They're not getting any value from it. So, and not everywhere, but in most places we hear that's the message. So the feedback comes in, sorry, I haven't really had a chance to use it yet. I'm not sure how useful it is. And message me on team at MKAI if you want to get this briefing on Copilot. But, we see only 3 use cases in colleges at the moment. And I'll just pop that in there. Whoops. Oh, thanks, Alex. You're always faster than me. Only 3 reasons that we think to use Copilot at the moment. That is it. And as I say, Microsoft would probably shoot me if they were hearing this because it's not what they would want us to say. But for us, it's the truth. And we are impartial. So, but they're great tools, and I think they build on what we're seeing from the government, which is exciting. I'm just going to check in with the room as well. Stephen, is there anything that you would like to comment at this point? Anything that's resonating with yourself?
Well, ironically, just before this, I was actually in a meeting for an hour talking about how we might be moving forward with AI in our college. So it's quite interesting to me that there's a bit of feedback coming in today about it aligned to what we were saying anyway, that we're fairly early stages with this. We've got an AI policy for 1 year. The tools, we're only starting to look at them as of, we're doing trials right now. And strangely enough, that conversation about Copilot also happened. So this really does resonate quite well.
So you think that's the truth then, that there's just these certain use cases and that is it? Like,
agreed.
Very interesting. We should talk, Stephen, for sure. Compare more notes. Tom, anything that you would like to add? And it's fine just to be here in listen-only mode, of course. And Namo, if I'm saying that correctly, is there anything you'd like to add to this conversation? Just checking in with the room. Again, it's absolutely fine to be here.
Richard, from our point of view, we're a Google college, so Gemini is our kind of AI tool of choice. And in the college environment that we've got, it all stays within the college itself. It doesn't, whatever we put into it is not used to train the model. And that works quite well. But the issues are when we use like a third-party tool like Power BI or anything that integrates with Copilot, we then have to kind of use a second AI tool to then be able to integrate with that. So we're only just starting on the journey with things like Power BI at the moment. So we're not invested in the Copilot infrastructure at the moment, but certainly the Gemini is coming on more and more within our institution.
That's a really great point. And I forget that not everybody's on Microsoft, of course. It's not the law. Yeah, I mean, parallel stories for sure. We use a lot of Google here at MKAI. We know a lot about Gemini as well, for sure. Interesting, it's just popped up on our phones now for those who are using Gmail or Android. You'll probably have seen Gemini appearing in the last few days. Fascinating for me. It popped up and it said, do you want to use this? It's like, not really. It said, okay, do you want to just see all your unread messages from the last month? And I said, okay. And in there was one from the Director of Education at North Anglia asking to meet with me that I had not seen. So I immediately felt a huge debt of gratitude for Gemini picking up that message for me. So it's funny, isn't it, how these things pop up. Stephen, good to see you. Yeah, so let's get into opportunities and challenges. Alex has got a little bit more to share with me. Tom, that's no problem. I see your message there about the microphone. I just actually, before I come to Alex, just another note. So we got those 3 use cases on Copilot that I'm happy to discuss with anybody. That my email or our email is just there. But I think it gets interesting in third-party tools, and hearing Craig talk about Gemini was a perfect interlude into that. That we see more and more of a case now for transcription of meetings. There's a lot of time wasted in note-taking and action-taking and so on, action creation, I should say, that can be eliminated. But of course, we don't want Copilot to be rolled out either. So I think, there's a conversation there about how we're going to do transcription. Yes, there's some great tools. We know the Otters, we know the Fireflies. We've got Fireflies in the room with us here now. Those are not GDPR compliant. And I think the colleges we're working with, we're talking about changes to the policy, because we've got to have a global understanding of how these meetings are going to be recorded, not just internal meetings, but external, and also the critical meetings, the ones where there's disciplinaries or issues that have to be resolved. At the moment, we've got third-party administrators coming into those meetings to take the notes. Okay, we don't need those in theory. But I think it's a nuanced conversation. And I think for those who aren't going to roll out Copilot, which I hope is everybody at the moment, and those who are being very wary of the governance around third-party tools, I think there's definitely a slight challenge here to get right around that particular use case. I'll pause there. Alex, what else do we need to know? We've got 10 minutes left.
Yes, as you already mentioned, there are many opportunities and many challenges. So opportunities are definitely in these use cases, like automating all these back-end processes in different business units to not replace humans, but augment their work and help them deliver better results and outputs. And it's also very helpful because by using different AI tools or AI assistants, you become inspired to try something else, to try something new, and to do certain task or process in even better way. And of course, there will be a lot of adoption barriers among staff, which is perfectly natural, because we as humans, we resist change, but there is a need just to embrace it, to experiment, and to try something new. Once we see that there are very positive use cases, and once we see what impact it has on others, once we implement certain AI tools. And what I also wanted to say is that not only students need to build all these AI skills, but also teachers need to do that. Back office staff needs to do that. It's not for the sake of need, just because it's something new. It's for the sake of innovation, but for the sake of evolving. Because AI, engaging with AI is actually all about mastering conversation design. So we are talking to a tool, interacting with it constantly, and we are building something new formats, new content, and it might be really inspiring to see more of that, more engaging content where you can, for example, engage with an interactive podcast instead of just listening to it, when you can have action items, next steps, all the notes right after your call, and so on and so on. There are so many brilliant use cases, and it will be really sad if we don't adopt it. Yes, Notebook LM is amazing for.
I know that was what you were referring to. Yeah, that's been one of the big headline wins from Google. Yes, just a few minutes left on today. You know, we keep these sessions short and to the point. We'll be running more of these. Obviously, really welcome anybody who's interested to reach out to MKAI. You know, we love working with likes of yourselves on these plans, and we've done loads around strategy, policy, consulting, training, CPD, you know, just want to keep building on this. I think there's so much potential here that we have in the sector. I'll share Peter Kyle's words for just a moment, Secretary of State for Science, Innovation and Technology, and I'll summarize it slightly, but it'll just give you a flavor of what the government said as we bring this session to a close today, and then we'll just have a quick check-in with the room once we've stopped the live stream. This was from the 13th, I think, of January when this announcement came out. Today, Britain is the third largest AI market in the world, which is slightly misleading, actually, because we had a huge investment in Babylon AI, if anybody remembers them a few years ago, who then subsequently went bust. But anyway, we'll take those words at face value. We're home to talent, obviously, like DeepMind, ARM, and Wave, and others, but we risk falling behind the advances in AI, particularly in the USA and China. In the next phase of development of AI, we want Britain to step up, to shape the AI revolution rather than wait to see how it shapes us. We believe Britain has a particular responsibility to provide global leadership in fairly and effectively seizing the opportunities of AI. One of the first acts was to commission Mark Clifford, blah, 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 as we know. The plan shows how we can shape the application of AI within a modern social market economy. We'll work closely with the world's leading AI companies, Britain's leading academics and entrepreneurs, and those talented individuals keen to start up and scale businesses here. Our ambition is to shape the AI revolution on principles of shared economic prosperity, as you would expect. The three headlines on that is AI to drive economic growth, which depends on the prosperity of our people and the performance of our public sector. The AI to directly benefit working people to improve healthcare and education. Of course, that's interesting to read. And increasing the prevalence of AI in working people's lives, opening up new opportunities rather than threatening the traditional patterns of work, or just threatening those. Across government, we've already taken decisive action to support the AI sector and take down the barriers to growth. I'll just pause there because obviously we know what that really means. That means there's going to be an absence of regulation and governance, which is probably another briefing that we need to have at some point. My opinion on this, I think it's clear. Donald Trump is clearly going to significantly reduce regulation, already has done actually, on US AI. He's untangling a lot of that right now. We know that he's pro fossil fuels. Unfortunately, that made me very sad indeed to see that on a personal note. But one of the reasons for that is probably because he anticipates how much energy demand is going to be needed from the data centers to do the sort of AI that they're discussing. And that is a challenge with renewable energy. I acknowledge that, because it's just exponentially more. I think if you look at somewhere like Cambridge in the UK, and if you just have a quick Google search on how much energy demand has gone up in Cambridge over the last few years and continues to do as a center of innovation, you get a picture of what's needed. And that's one of the reasons we see tech companies talking about massive renewable projects and talking about nuclear energy as well. They just realize how much power is going to be needed to meet their ambitions. So that perhaps explains why Trump is calling an energy emergency in the US, despite them having a surplus of gas and oil like they haven't had in years. Continuing from Peter, our transformational planning reforms will make it easier to build data centers. Yeah, there we go. So he's going to just green light a whole bunch more data centers, which comes at an environmental cost, of course. The digital center of government that's been created in his department will drive forward the technological transformation of the state, ensuring that public sectors offer citizens the same seamless experience they can find in the private sector. I mean, obviously, that's a massive statement. We will see what that means. But our experiences are that there are some great efficiency opportunities through ready-to-made, ready-to-use AI tools in the back office. So in that sense, it's achievable. And he closes with the recommendations in this plan are unapologetic in their ambition. Governments must be the same. Delivering our AI vision for Britain requires a lot of hard work, tough choices, and a commitment to real partnership between public and private sector. No time to waste. So plenty to be excited about, plenty to be concerned about as well. I think just building more and more data centers in the UK, we know comes at a great price. If you look at what's happened in Ireland, they are hitting an energy crisis because of how many data centers they tried to build for their own economic development. This is not, GDP at all costs anymore in 2025. That is a political error, in my opinion, to try and have that opinion. This is not the 1980s. So I think it falls on us to, particularly, before HE, I think we're going to have to push and demand what we need. We're not getting a mention, particularly in that work so far, where the mentions are there, they're for HE. We're going to have to claw and fight out for the role that we have in skills and development and industry and careers and so on, that we know the massive part that we play. Make sure that's here, front and central and heard. I don't like this sort of undercurrent that they're going to trash regulation, governance, ethics, and sustainability to get where they need to. I think that comes from a place of fear. We're never going to compete with the US and China. That's silly to say that. We have to carve out our own path. But anyway, it's going to be interesting. There's a lot said, and even more importantly, a lot that's not quite said, but implied in that. We'll be keeping a close eye on it. In the meantime, let's get on the front foot, both in the way that we speak about the sector and the work that we're doing. Let's not wait for government. Let's make sure we show them the efficiency that we're building across the sector and how we want it to be done, and not waiting for it to be done to us. And that is 3:00. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope these are useful. You know where we are, team@mkai.org. We love to chat and speak and work together with everybody on this call to shape the sector that we want. Look forward to doing these again with you. I'll close the LinkedIn Live. If you need to get on, of course, thank you for being with us. If you've got a few minutes, just love to have an informal chat with you as well. Thank you, everybody.